every experience is accompanied by, we have seen it already now, by this dynamics between subject and object. This perpetual dynamics between the seer and the seen. Yes, the seer and the seen, and the process exemplified in seeing. And the dynamics are such that what is being experienced as an object of experience is recognized by virtue of its identity of the seer and seen. Otherwise, there will be no act of recognition. In order for recognition to take place, there has to be tremendous intimacy between that, what is being reflected back as an object of experience. The gap here is the momentary cessation of that activity, and that activity of subject and object in relation not only to the sensory perception equipped with an organ of cognition. As an example of, right now, I'm seeing you and you're seeing me. It's through the activity of the sense perception of sight. But that subject and object is also present in relation to the moments when you reflect on a written passage or when you are reading something. Not only that, it's present even when you're thinking of something, contemplating on something. The object of your contemplation is only the object of your contemplation, or the possibility of that is rooted in the fact that it is you who is the subject for whom this experience of the object takes place. And momentarily cessation of that, as what happens between the thoughts, is the gap. Just as when we speak, that's not quite the same as spanda, although, obviously, there's nothing, as we will expound further, that is separate from spanda. It's just we want to first bring the distinction into this experience of what is the gap and what falling into the gap exemplifies. The gap is that where everything takes place. But why we call it a gap? Gap presupposes that it's a space between two things. When in fact, the two things are linked by the continuity of what we then call a gap. The gap is a string that holds all the rosaries of what comes to us as fragmentary experiences. So, in other words, the gap here is an uninterrupted stream of awareness to which awareness perpetually falls as it undergoes this full experience of rise, culmination, and decline of the process of observing. Of process of perception, exactly. So this observer, observing, and observed, it's a dynamic of expressive potentiality of awareness when it rises out of itself now as objective experience of any kind, and is fallen back onto itself and nowhere else. That is what the gap exemplifies. And cultivating that, falling into this, is not, of course, far from the methodologies of how to locate spanda. But as we will progress now with with the exposition on the spanda, it will become clearer how spanda stands unique in or among the approaches, even when it comes to the diversity of traditions born in the Indian subcontinent. So, what is this projection or emission and withdrawal? What is this projection and withdrawal? How does that relate and translates to our daily human experience? And here we can see that every mode of perception all without exception are minute combinations of that dynamic. Minute combination. In other words, don't try to grasp it just as yet. Follow the stream of thought itself and see how it seeds with you until we can tap into that and clarify further if need be. So in other words, everything that we experience in any realm of our awareness, waking, dreaming, deep sleep, any experience in meditation, in any state of its transcendence, it is the result of that pulsation in consciousness. It is the result of that pulsation in consciousness, and what makes a particular experience unique and particular is that unique combination of that emission and withdrawal. Every experience, it's like has this outward, outpouring stream of awareness out of itself, out of its state of plenitude, to constantly become something. It transfigures itself out of that fullness into the fullness of self-expression as object of experiencing for its own sake. And likewise, it is accompanied by withdrawal. Withdrawal because that experience has to be claimed and be recognized and fallen back onto itself. So you can see now, imagine waves going in both directions. There is predominantly waves this way, predominantly waves this way, and infinitude of myriads of waves where they meet and interact. That's what creates the matrix of this entire experience, or the entire gamut of experiences. As I said, from looking at the chair and seeing just a chair, or having one's eyes closed and beholding the archetypal image of the Kali, or simply being illumined by the light of one's own awareness in deep state of samadhi. All this is born out of this and nothing else. A gross objectivity of seeing a jag for being a jag, tree for being a tree, or chair being a chair, to the most refined experience possible in terms of human language. And that is due to these movements that are complementary and in opposite direction. It's whatever that experience takes place. I mean, come on. A simple example. Someone is right now experiencing a tremendous sense of contraction, depressed, very upset, and totally contracted. What is it illumined by? Where that experience is being in awareness, exactly. Someone at this very moment on the way to aha moment. Someone in this very moment is fully enjoying his lunch and not giving a hoot about any other experiences other than chewing the food. Someone is catching a butterfly. Someone is doing something else. Someone is beholding a deity with eyes closed. and the list goes on. There's no point to continue because there's no end to examples given.